Awesome leaders. Here we go, another round. It's the keynote with Nate's Nuggets. And so we're doing our series this week, No Excuses. So as we're talking about our series of No Excuses this week, tonight we're going to talk about the concept of create history during your process. Create history during your process. And if you create history during your leadership process, then what happens is you can't make excuses for what comes out of it, because everything should be a learning component. We are using, again, my book that I wrote in 2017, Nate's Notions, You Matter. This book is designed strictly for leaders. It's only for leaders. It's developed for leaders. It's about leaders. It challenges leaders. It exposes your leadership, because one of the things we have to have is authentic leadership. My leadership company, Boss Leadership Institute, BOSS is an acronym. It stands for B is for balanced, O is for original, S is for sane, and the final S is for self-sufficient. As a leader, you learn to be balanced in your leadership and balanced in your management roles. You learn to be original. Develop your own stuff. You've got to own something that's yours. Being original. Be sane. You have to operate with the right kind of mindset. You got to be sane and not lose your mind when everybody else is losing theirs. The final S is self-sufficiency. Learn how to use the resources that are available to you to still produce results. As leaders, we must always produce results. As a matter of fact, if you're not producing results, I would contend to say that you're not a leader. Every leader produces results. Even on a basic leadership level, you can produce some results. For instance, if you watch kids at a playground, you can find out who the leader is of the bunch, because the other kids will follow their lead. The other kids will listen to them. The other kids are influenced by them. You can know who the leader is without them wearing a title, I am the leader. Leadership produces results. And if I can get people to follow me, that's a leader. If nobody is following you, you're not a leader. Listen, leaders, children teach us that leadership concept. That small concept of follow me. I am the line leader. Something you learn in school. The line leader, all of the students follow the line leader to the lunchroom or to the restroom. That's how you develop your leadership skills. If you are following a person who is leading you to a destination, that person is called a leader. Kids figure this out. So why is it that when we become adults, we believe that we have to have a title to lead? Titles are relevant. I'm not dismissing that. But in order to be an effective leader, your title is irrelevant. It's your ability to get people to follow you. And if you can inspire and influence people, that is leadership. You have all these other things, all these other people talking about what leadership is. Leadership is the ability to influence people and to inspire them. That is leadership. And children can teach us that. So leaders, I challenge you this week, as we're talking about the concept of no excuses as a leader, create history during your leadership process. So what does that mean? Here's some components I want to talk about. Your results are not produced via observation alone, but through application of what you observe. Listen, as we lead people, as we pour into people, as we inspire people, as we look to develop people to get to their next level of greatness, as we do that, we can't just talk leadership. Our actions have to exemplify leadership. So your ability, your results are not produced just because of what you observe, what you hear, a class you sat in. You have to then apply those tenets to everything that you do. So I'll never forget one of the things that when I was getting my license as a minister out of Florida at the Fountain Church in Miami Gardens, one of the key things that was pivotal during the process, and this is talking about create history during your process, I wanted to chronicle all of our leadership meetings, so I took copious notes. So all of the meetings leading up to the preparation for us to be licensed as ministers, I took copious notes and I kept notes and data, and I did that. One of the things I'm able to do is to go back to those notes and see where I had to improve on my ability to exegete or pull information out of the scriptures. I learned and I studied ways on how to better encourage people with the words that I use in my ability to relay a sermon. So, how do you compose a sermon? 1 point or 3 points? All of these things, because I created history during my process, I now can go back and reflect on those things and add value to my ability to lead people even better. So remember, it's not just what you hear and what you learn, but it's what you apply that makes you better at producing results as a leader. Another thing, be a student of your own process. Be willing to listen to people, be willing to learn from people, and be willing to grow because of people. Very important. Document what you learn, and then learn to duplicate it over and over and over again. Duplication in a leader is very effective. When you learn to duplicate yourself in other people, it makes your job as a leader much easier. Doesn't make leading easy, it makes some of your duties easier as a leader, because now you have people who know what to expect from you, and now because they know what you expect from them, they can duplicate and help you become a better leader and produce better results. Be aware of how you may limit yourself. One of the things I have to talk to leaders about is removing words like I can't, I don't know, I am not able to. Those terms will put you in a place where you will always be making excuses for why you can't do something. So instead of saying I can't or I don't know, say, let me think about that. Let me figure out, let me check my resources and see if I am capable of doing what you're expecting of me. Your verbiage changes to a more positive and pronounced verbiage and more confident level verbiage than a more confidence level verbiage than a negative, I can't do, in an isolated type tone and verbiage. Presentation matters, leaders. It's all in how you present things. So be aware what your limitations are. You can be critical of yourself and not be condemning of yourself. Let me say that again. Leaders, you can be critical of yourself and not be condemning of yourself. So I would encourage you, as you look at what your limitations are, be critical so that you'll know what you need to improve. But don't be condemning, because condemnation is not what you're about. You are about making people's lives better, so that means you have to do better. Be the first to do what you're trying to accomplish. If others have done it, find out what their flaws are and improve and make it better. This goes back to something I said yesterday about understanding who your competition is. Don't try to be like your competition, but know what they present so that you can know why you matter and why you're different and why what you bring to the table is significant. Seek out unexpected opportunities. One of the things we have to do in this quarantine time is find new ways to do things differently. Look at new opportunities. Find ways to develop new opportunities so that you can grow. I say assess your growth every 3 to 6 months. Look at your growth pattern. Where were you 3 months ago? Where are you now? And what do you see the growth in? And if you can identify your growth, then you can measure where you're going to over your next 3 months. And that's really just called managing your time. It's really called professional development. So I really want you to be able to do that. Every 3 to 6 months, assess your growth development. You've got to be willing to sacrifice your time, your energy, your efforts, and your finances. One of the first things I learned as an author, the first thing I learned, if I am not willing to invest the time in writing, who would invest their time in reading it? Simple. If I'm not willing to buy my own books and then help develop them by giving them to people, why would people buy books from me and then use them to teach and train other people with? You've got to be willing to sacrifice your time, your energy, your efforts, and your finances in your own leadership so that people will be willing to follow you. And when you've invested in yourself, it gives people the argument to say, you know what? If they can develop themselves, then I can also develop myself. You become an example for people to learn by. So listen, no excuses. Create history during your process. Leaders, that's all the time I have for you today. I want you to take some time and think about how your leadership affects other people. If you are not inspiring people, and if people are not convinced to follow you, you're not leading. Now, because you are boss leaders, you're balanced, you're original, you're sane, and you're self-sufficient. People need you and everything you bring to the table. So, leaders, I appreciate you. Thank you. I say this every day. Thank you for being bold enough to step out. Thank you for being bold enough to lead, even in a time where people will want to move to a place of not leading. Thank you for being the type of leaders who are willing to contribute to change this nation. It all boils down to my same phrase, 2 words. You matter. Have a great day, leaders.